Hey guys, welcome back to Alby Edited It. I'm Alby and today I'm going to show you how to get bigger arms using Photoshop. And it's really about an art of subtleties because you see how it's pointy here on my shoulder and then it's more rounded out here, and then my triceps are going to be slightly bigger. It's all about kind of small things to make you look a little less scrawny, not about overdoing it. But there is a wrong way to do it, and I'm going to show you how to not do it the wrong way. Then I'm going to talk about the idea of if this is catfishing, and then tell you a story about how I got catfished twice by the same person. All right, let's get started. So first off, I'm going to show you the wrong way to do this. So this is a photo that I saw on Instagram that was recommended to my feed. And you'll see that the arm here, you see this bend in the background. So this is an indication, let me zoom in some more. This is an indication that this photo was warped. And that is the warp function in Photoshop that I'm going to be showing you. But what this person did wrong is after they warped their shoulder, I'm guessing outward to the right, they didn't erase the background here. So that's the last step you have to do. You see here, there's also a warp here. It's like bending inward. They probably did something with the forearm here. So something with the shoulder here, something with the forearm here. And so you might wonder, okay, what if it's just the wall that's, warped? And so here's another photo where he did not warp it. And you'll see, well, actually, I don't know, maybe he slightly did, but you see how straight the wall is here? So just an example of, it's the same background, I'm assuming. So yeah, it's not the wall that's shaped differently. He really did some warp. Okay, so I'm gonna get started with this photo first, and then I'll show you another one. Here's a video of my screen record. In this screen record, you'll see me doing a warp here. Oh, so this is a before and an after. Okay, I think I'm redoing the warp here. So yeah, I go to transform warp and then see me pulling that out. So that's basically how I do it. And because the background is blurred, it doesn't really matter what happens after that. I also did some warps, you see, before and after right there on my shoulder and my tricep. Let me pause this and then I'll show you another recent edit that I did. I actually didn't really like the outcome of this photo. I just didn't like my pose in this photo, but I think it's a great example because you see the background doing a warp right here, and you see I'm pulling out my shoulder just to give it some more fill, and you see how the background gets warped here. So this is a great example because of it's like vertical lines, and when you warp it, it moves, it changes the background, and it's very obvious that it's warped, very similar to that Instagram photo I showed you. But you'll see that I do something afterwards. So here's me finishing up my warp. Making that shoulder a little bulkier, actually quite a bit bulkier. You see, I'm using the eraser tool and I'm erasing the background very carefully around my, I have two mice here, but yeah, you see that eraser? Yeah, it's getting rid of that warped background so that basically you can't tell that it was warped. It seems like it's very obvious and simple, but look at this. He didn't even bother to do that here. It's basically you just got to do the eraser tool right here and right here. All right, so those are the examples I wanted to show you. I also wanted to give quick basics on poses because sometimes you can most of it can just come from posing the right way. For me, obviously, like I'm on the scrawnier side, so I have to rely a bit more on the right poses. Basically, my main trick is having one of these arms backward. So like bending backward. I'll show you another example of this. Here's another example where I have my hand in my pocket, but I'm bending my elbow backward to create this shoulder, to allow this shoulder curve and the tricep curve to come out. Same thing with this photo, which is the one I posted, right? Hand here in the back, and then it's bent backward. You don't see the bend because, it's squared with the camera. It's, facing the camera. But especially with the lighting, it could really create that more muscular look. So yeah, poses and angles and warp is how to get the additional muscle illusion. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a bit about, is this catfishing? First of all, for me, I'm pretty upfront about what I'm doing. I literally show you the edits that I'm making, but I have heard that this is called like flounder or floundering because it's me. So catfishing is like if it's not you and you're pretending to be another person, but if it is me, but I just, am presenting myself to look better than I really am. So I think that has been called like flounder, which I've only heard once, so I don't know. Let me know if there's another term for that. But it reminds me of something I heard on NPR about grasshoppers. There are these grasshoppers called, I forgot what they're called. Let me look it up real quick. Oh, they're crickets. Sorry. There's crickets that are called bafflers that use leaves to amplify their sound. So basically, these crickets, the females only are attracted to males who are the loudest. Whoever is the loudest, they will mate with. And so for some crickets who just aren't loud enough, they will burrow into a leaf and use the leaf's shape to amplify their sound. And it actually becomes even louder than the ones who are naturally loud. And then studies show that the females actually mate just as long with those males as they do with a very loud cricket. Because typically what females will do is if they can't find a loud enough male, they'll mate with whoever is the loudest, even if it's not preferred, but they would just not mate with them as long. So yeah, that got me thinking, this is kind of similar way where maybe on Instagram or the digital world, I may not be as quote unquote competitive as others who are able to have more natural musculature. I'm like the cricket who uses Photoshop and Lightroom to amplify my sound by, amplifying some other things. So I thought that was really interesting. But the NPR show started getting into a more ethical discussion of whether that is dishonest, the right and wrongs of that. So yeah, I'm curious. Let me know what you think about, the moral or ethical side of things. For me, I think, especially if I'm like super upfront about it, then whatever, right? You know what I'm doing. But at the same time, I think people also already know how heavily edited photos can be. And if you just look at a couple of recent photos from someone, you can tell maybe they're probably wearing makeup or they're doing some edits. You can also look at video footage and, see what the real deal is. People already view photos with a grain of salt. There's so much Instagram versus reality memes and videos already. So for people who are people of the internet, then it's pretty known that that's what happens, that you shouldn't trust a photo. You gotta meet someone in person to know. And I mean, just to be honest, I haven't had complaints about me in person, but definitely I don't think my muscles will look like this if I'm just like scrawnier. This is an illusion using poses and Photoshop, admittedly. Okay. So last thing I want to share is a little story about how I actually got catfished twice. So what happened was, this was a while ago. I was using an app and, somebody had really good photos on their profile. And so I was messaging them and we scheduled time to meet. And when I got there, it was kind of strange where they were like, oh, just come up to my room. And I was like, okay, that's weird. But I think, I was too enticed by the good photos. Darn, what good photos can make you do, right? So I was like, okay, fine, we'll see, right? Luckily for guys, there's less fear of getting murdered than females do. Basically, I hear a lot from female friends or on media that every time they meet someone for the first time, there's a risk of murder. I mean, I guess it's true for me too, but I'm also just try to be cautious. So anyway, I get to the room and then turns out basically this person doesn't look like the photo at all. But at that time, I had never really mentally prepared myself on how to basically reject somebody. So basically still follow through in some ways. And I'll give you the full details if I get 100 likes on this video. Okay, I'm going to fast forward to basically I was like, okay, this guy's fake, whatever, it happens and I'm not going to get tricked again. Now, I think 5 years later or 5 or 6 years later, I'm on the app and I see, and I totally forgot how that all happened, but I kind of remember the place, right? So anyway, I see my profile with good pictures and this guy's catfishing is next level because he also will crop out the face. It's very it's not oh, it just took some stock image and slapped it on. He also did some cropping to make it seem oh, this might be somebody who is hiding their identity, which makes it seem more realistic. And then they also chat in a way that's sort of on and off a little bit. So it's oh, just kind of the illusion that this is a real or it is a real person, but that they aren't catfishing you. They aren't being desperate, They're being manipulative and very careful about it in a realistic way. So basically I start driving there and then when I kind of get there, I'm like, I think it's the same place because the parking and the house all seemed very similar. But I was like, I'm not sure, right? Because I thought it was It seemed like it was a house more into the cul-de-sac, but it was sort of like on the side of a cul-de-sac. I still walked up to the door, and again, it's like very similar. He's like, actually, he stopped responding this time. So I was like messaging him, like, oh, you're still there? You know, like, what's going on? And I noticed that the door was slightly opened, and I was like, oh, this is like 100% repeat of the same situation, because he's not opening the door. He's like waiting for you to get in until you're sort of in a situation where it's like, oh, I'm already here kind of thing, right? So I get there and I kind of peer through the door and I see the inside. I'm like, that's the exact same layout as that place. And he's sitting there on the couch just on his phone. And I was like, okay, I'll just keep playing it and see what happens, right? I'll pretend like I've never been here before, because, you know, out of curiosity. And I already in my mind I have prepared myself to say no and just be ready to leave. So I get in there, I'm like, oh, hey. And he's like, oh, are you here to see my friend? So he's, you know, he's playing the thing where he's pretending his friend to be the person on the app. But this is obviously that same guy. And I'll tell you the exact ways I could tell if I get those 100 likes. So he basically is like, oh, my friend's still in the bathroom. If you want to wait, like, you can wait upstairs. And I was like, okay, if there's like a 1% chance that somehow his good looking friend moved to this house with him, which is possible, and is actually in the bathroom, then, you know, maybe I will actually see this good looking friend. But I already knew, obviously, that's a 1% chance, but I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just see and like see what happens, right? I'm already here, already came all the way here. So I get there, and then we're in the same, that's the same room. And then that bathroom, there's a light open, but it's closed. And obviously there's nobody in there, but he's like pretending that his friend is in there and not feeling well. And then I'm like, oh, is this your room? Because I was trying to, you know, I'm just trying to catch him in a lie at that point to see if he's like, oh, this is my room. They're like, okay, then why is your friend in your bathroom, kind of thing. Anyway, he's dodgy about answering my questions and keeps asking me questions about what I do for a living, how old I am, where I'm living, blah, blah. I'm kind of just like, no, I'm not going to answer your question. Like, is your friend going to be okay? If not, then I'm just going to leave. I think he was kind of like, oh my goodness, like, I'm not used to somebody being so ready to just be so firmly say no. So basically, you guys should be ready to say no at any time and not like fall into the traps of answering people's questions and wasting your time. So yeah, I didn't let him waste my time, and I was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to leave if he's not going to be feeling better. And then basically left. A while later that night, he messages me again like, oh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't feeling well. I'm good, I'm better now. Do you want to like? So I was like, obviously fake. So I just stopped responding. So yes, shamefully, but admittedly, I did get catfished twice by the same person. And this is not your typical like unsophisticated catfisher. So yeah, be careful and get ready to just reject and leave if that ever happens to you. Okay, I just wanted to share with you how I do these warps in Photoshop, and also tell little stories. If there's anything you want to hear me talk about in the future, comment down below. Instagram is @alby. Thanks for watching, and I'll be showing you in the next one.